So here's a question for you. I know that at some point you were the executive director of admissions and financial aid. And we all know that sometimes admissions and financial aid don't always play nice in the sandbox. So how were you able to really manage that position and bridge the gap, if there was one, between those two teams?
Yeah, so thank you for that question, Kathy. I think it comes to, there's more than one thing, right? So if we're talking to our top administrators, here is what I can offer them. We need to understand our student experience and what matters to them, right? We know that in this environment, financial aid is a top top factor in their decision to enroll at the institution, right? So we need to ensure that our admissions and financial aid folks are aligned. And in that, we need to set up an enrollment management structure that facilitates that alignment. I am still incredibly surprised when I go to colleges and I see a financial aid office that is under the CFO. And then you have the admissions team under somebody else. That right there, we need to start with structure, and our top administrators need to make sure that they're setting their teams up for success. So having an enrollment shop that includes admissions and financial aid is a must in today's environment. You cannot get away with departments that are sitting on different opposites of the institutional, organizational chart. And I would say that the second piece is, how are we aligned in terms of understanding what is the North? Where are we driving? Where are we going? A lot of what I find when I work with colleges and universities in my role at RNL is silos, right? We're doing our work here and we're doing great work, but we're doing our work within our silo. Same happening in admissions. So as leaders, we need to ensure that we have horizontal collaboration.
I like that.
Even sometimes within enrollment management units that have admissions and financial aid, we don't see enough of that horizontal cross collaboration. Do we sit at a table to understand what is the student experience from the time that they come to our website to the time that they're graduating, right? Who is touching the students, and what kind of bottlenecks or barriers are we creating? And seriously, shooting ourselves in the foot.
100%.
Because we're not taking a look from a student experience perspective. So I think that the way to align those teams is, number one, be student-centered. Decisions shouldn't be made based on this department or the department. Decisions should be made on the experiences that the students need to have in order to graduate from your institution. And then have a North. What are our goals? And knowing that, hey, our trains need to align and get to the same location together. And then collaborate with each other. When I was on campus, and something that we do at RNL, and I still do, we did this financial aid trainings, right? Because nowadays we're seeing more of admissions office taking on that conversation because they're the ones managing the relationship. We also know that financial aid offices tend to be a smaller staff that are serving the entire community of students. So how do we ensure that our financial aid people are training our admissions teams on, what are the financial details of what's on our offer, right? So that when they're talking to students, they can easily walk that student through that information. So having that cross collaboration between those teams matters, right? But it comes with top leadership. I always believe anything falls or rises on leadership. So you need to have the right structures for your team to then be able to work together.
Absolutely. You know what? I found that financial aid and admissions seem to sit in their own little boxes. And so admissions is only focused on the student and what entails in their role, right? And then financial aid is only focused on tuition and how to get a student packaged and complete to start class, right? But where is the collaboration? I trained in a financial aid team on customer service, because you know how our students look at financial aid. Oh my gosh, those are the accounting people, no personality. That's not always true, because I know some amazing financial aid advisors. However, if we look at them as a whole, it is like a culture shock when you go from the admissions team to financial aid. So I think that we do need to do more of that cross training. Absolutely. And here's another point. It's good for admissions to really know what financial aid goes through when it comes to packaging a student, and vice versa. I remember meeting with the financial aid team and walking them through what admissions does on a daily basis, and they were floored. They had no idea. Because what they're thinking is, okay, you talk to a couple of students, you get them to enroll. First of all, inspiring a student to take the next step, that is a job all in itself, you know? But then also the admissions advisors being able to see what financial aid goes through just to get one person packaged. If more schools can do that, it's going to be such a better relationship between the two teams, because one cannot function without the other. And
Absolutely.
so I really love that you said that.
Yeah, and Kathy, I mean, the reality is, you know, like I said, financial aid teams tend to be smaller in terms of the counselor to the student ratio, because they're serving the entire community.
Absolutely.
So it's not that they don't want to have that more relational conversation, is that because of time constraints and bandwidth, they have to be more transactional, which is where our admissions teams can help with at least the incoming class, right? We know and they understand that without the financial aspect, that student is not going to make a decision. So it's part of you as the owner of that relationship and helping that student make an informed decision to ensure that they have all the information financial wise so that they can move forward with making the decision. So that collaboration where you have financial aid teams that can train the admissions teams on their financial aspects of things, and you have the admissions teams who are very much, you know, our sales force in a way, right? They know how to deal with objections and how to get students to the next step because they know the student's story. Dealing with those conversations to free up our financial aid teams to do what they do best, which is all the processing, making sure that they can take care of our current students. I think we would have a much better experiences for all. You know, we have to worry about our teams being successful and make sure that we're not overwhelming them.
Absolutely.
Because nobody wins. They don't win. Our students don't win because the service is not what the service should be, right? Listen, I think anybody that's student facing at an institution, whether it's advising, whether it's enrollment services, whether it's financial aid, you've got to be able to deal, you know, especially with barriers and objections within your areas, right? You should have a general, you know, but you know, you also have within your areas, and you should be able to not only qualify that objection, but deal with it, right? Get to the bottom of what the problem really is. Through discovery with that student, and then get at how you can offer them solutions for that issue. So I do think, you know, that's customer service, right? But back to leadership, right? Do my teams have the bandwidth? Am I set up so that my financial aid counselors have the ability to have that conversation? What happens a lot, Kathy, is that not that the financial aid counselors don't want to have that conversation, they don't have the time to have the conversation because they have a queue of 25 waiting and they need to get to the next one, right? So it all goes back to what kind of bandwidth do we have for financial aid counselors, right? And if they have the bandwidth, yes, they'll have that conversation. You know, if you were to call Georgia Southern and you're talking to one of our financial aid counselors, they're equipped to handle the objection. They're equipped to talk through that process, right? Now I want to free them up as much as I can to deal with my current students when I have admissions dealing with my incoming classes. You know, the fact of the matter is some of those incoming classes that we're dealing with, some of them are not going to come at all, right? I want to make sure that our financial aid teams are spending their time where we most need them. And that is continuing to retain and helping those students progress and ensuring that from a financial aspect, nothing is holding them back. With you on the fact that, yes, everybody needs to have some customer service, and dealing with objections is just part of that.